Welcome to the Currency of Knowledge, a County National Bank wealth management podcast, the podcast where we unravel the layers of prosperity, explore the diverse meanings of wealth, and delve into the stories of those who have built their own versions of abundance. I'm your co-host, Christopher Phillips.
And I'm Holly Baker. Join us on this insightful journey as we redefine wealth beyond the balance sheets and uncover the true riches that life has to offer. Let's explore the essence of wealth in all its forms. Welcome to the Currency of Knowledge. We're very excited today to have Jed and Jenny Engel with us. Christopher, if you'd like to do a little bit of an introduction for them, I'd appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much for being here and taking time out of your day. So I first met Jenny a few years ago when she was the liaison for Lenawee Cares and the Community Foundation. And we worked together. I think I might have been helping run the campaign that year.
You did.
I'm sure it was between us. It was probably a huge success.
It was.
It was quite successful. But really got to know you in your work there and then became friends. And then you introduced me to Jed.
Yep.
And Jed is, and I should say right now you're the Adrian Education Foundation Director.
Correct.
So that's really, we will talk a little bit about that as well today.
Okay. Great.
And then you met Jed at some point, which we'll talk about. And Jed is the third generation leader of remanufacturing in Hudson. So, So how did you guys meet?
So Jed went to school in Ohio. I grew up in Findlay, Ohio. Jed went to school in Ashland and was roommates with a friend of mine from high school. And I went to visit with that friend's girlfriend, went to go visit Mark, and met Jed. And here we are, happily ever after.
4 kids and a grandchild later.
Right.
Yeah. And how many years of marriage?
35 this year. 34 this year.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, it's been a good run.
Yeah.
It has.
I just went through Ashland, Ohio, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because
took you there?
Well, I was going to North Carolina, and you kind of dropped down through Ashland, Ohio, and so saw it.
There you go.
There,
Claremont Avenue.
That's right.
Yep.
So, Jenny, I would really, before we get to our big question, which is the question, what is wealth for the Engel family? I wanted to hear a little bit about your story. I know that you had 3 children and were pregnant with your 4th. Is this correct?
No, actually, she was a baby.
She was already born.
Yep, she was already born.
She was about 1.
And you were diagnosed with breast cancer.
That is correct. So it was 22 years ago this month.
Amazing.
Yep, crazy. I had, like you said, the 4 children, had some issues, saw the doctor, appointment after appointment, and was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. Wow. Had some pretty serious treatment, double mastectomy, the normal treatment that you would get for breast cancer, a combination of drugs that they administered over, I think about 6 months worth of treatment. But then I was lucky enough to participate in a clinical trial. And I say lucky enough, it made my treatment last an entire year longer. But once a week, every week I went in for an experimental drug. It wasn't necessarily experimental, but it was in the, what's the word?
Trial phase.
Trial phase, that's the word. And did that for 52 weeks.
Wow.
Had some radiation in there as well. But came out on the other side, and here I am celebrating nearly 22 years as a survivor.
Congratulations.
So
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I know that one time when we were talking about this, you told me a story that it just is always in the back of my mind. Is that I remember you saying that I'm sort of making some of this up a little bit, but I imagine you holding your little baby and you praying to let you live and see her 18th birthday.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I made a little bucket list when I was sick, and it wasn't the bucket list like, oh, I want to go see these fabulous things, I want to travel, but my bucket list was watching my kids grow up. Rebecca, the youngest, literally was just over a year old, and I wanted to make sure that she knew me and that she knew my voice, and the others too. They were just old enough that
Right.
I thought they would remember.
How old was the oldest?
He was 11.
11.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, 1, 7, 9, and 11.
Okay.
I think that's
Right.
right. Yeah. So, so I had this bucket list, and it was like, you want to get to certain birthdays. I mean, at that point, you want to get to the next birthday with your kids. I wanted my kids to know me and know my voice. I wanted them to remember me
That's amazing.
if I didn't make it.
Yeah.
So, birthdays were a big thing. I had a good friend who I said, if I don't make it, will you make sure that the kids always have cupcakes at school on their birthday? I planned for things like that, things that we sort of take for granted that are pretty simple things. I wanted to see all my kids graduate from high school, and the bucket list kind of evolved and is truly still evolving. You want to see them graduate. You want to see them go to college or, find whatever job they want. You want that to see their happiness. One daughter's married. I now have a grandchild. That puts a whole nother layer in the bucket list. Like, okay, so now he needs to know me, and he does. But things just keep changing.
Yeah.
As I cross those simple things, what seem to be simple things, off my bucket list.
So how old were you?
I was 33.
33.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't imagine what that's like to hear that news with, 4 kids. But from your perspective, like, how did you, she had to deal with the fear of not being here for the kids, all the medical, my mom had cancer and treatment for years, so I know what that does to just your body and your abilities to just kind of get up and go throughout the day. But how did you handle that, working and helping with the kids?
It was it was obviously very focused. Like, there was work, there was family, there was church. There wasn't much more. And we really tried hard to make sure that the kids still had as normal a routine as possible. E.J. was playing hockey, Sarah was playing softball, Hannah was playing soccer, things like that. And so there were a few times when I just load them all up in the minivan, and we were going to Battle Creek for Sarah's softball, and Mom got to stay home.
Yeah.
Things like that. So it was really, that was a priority, and there wasn't much more beyond that.
Yeah.
And so you just kept, and the good news was I liked being around all 3 of those.
Sure.
It was, it wasn't, that part wasn't hard.
Right.
But I will say, what truly was very helpful was the community. This community rallied around us, and the church community, our friends, just parents of the kids' friends.
Yeah.
They delivered meals.
We had
Too much.
we had meals delivered to our house. We had a really good friend who lived in the neighborhood, also had kids our age, and we knew through church. And she created like a meal train for us, and we had meals delivered to our house like 3 times a week, maybe 4, for like an entire year.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And
That outpouring of love
people,
made it so much more helpful.
I had a little schedule of like who was coming and so forth, and we made some arrangements like this is like the best time and so forth, and people were so good. But I on occasion would be like, I don't know who this person is, and I would have somebody come to my door, and I tried to answer the door if I could, just because I wanted to thank people and so forth. And I wasn't always in good shape to do that. But I remember one day somebody came to the door and it was a name on the calendar that I didn't know. And I'm like, well, Anita, who was making the calendar, I trusted all of that. But, it was somebody and she's just like, I am so glad to meet you and I'm so glad to do this for you. And I'm like, thank you. Right. I don't know who you are.
Right.
And she would explain, she was a friend of a friend of a friend.
Right.
And
just wanted to help out.
Yeah.
Wow.
We live in a very generous community.
Absolutely.
We all know
I'd
that.
say so, yeah.
And it's amazing how people can pitch in. And it's needed during those times.
Yeah.
So needed.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the bucket list real quick?
Yes.
Just because listening to you talk about it, and I think of when people put together a bucket list.
Mm-hmm.
And so can you think back to your bucket list before the breast cancer and how big of a change?
Before you answer, though, we're going to take a quick break.
At County National Bank, we know your financial needs are as unique as you are. That's why we offer tailored retail lending solutions to fit every dream and necessity. Need a personal loan for that new car, dream vacation, or unexpected expense? Thinking about tapping into your home equity? With personalized service that makes financing easy, we've got you covered. At CNB, we're here to help you achieve your goals with ease. Come in, sit down with us, and together we'll find the right loan for you. County National Bank, where our personalized loan solution meets your unique needs. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 399979.
So the bucket list before all of this, I was pretty young and pretty focused on like raising a family, and I can't, like, nothing sticks out completely in my mind.
Back
but
then, it would have been getting Becca through diapers.
Gotcha.
Right. I mean, there's like
going.
There are places I wanted to visit and so forth. Like Australia seemed like a big thing back then, and it's not on my bucket list anymore.
Okay.
There's some other places, but yeah, maybe I didn't think about it a whole lot then, but.
And then since your, recovery and you're a survivor, you kind of mentioned, though, your bucket list almost sounds the same, just with new steps to it, with the grandbaby and whatnot. Do you think it will evolve back to what most people consider the more traditional bucket list? Right. I want to go here, and I want this, and I want that? Or it'll stay focused around the important things?
There's a few things, like we've talked about going to see the Northern Lights and so forth. So that's sort of a bucket list idea. But my life is always focused around family and my kids and growing old together and so forth. So I don't see it changing a whole lot. I have a different attitude about life. I'm lucky to have a different attitude about life because of all of it. So I think I really learned what's important to me, which is different. That's different for everybody. Sure. But family is really family and friends and health and happiness. Those are.
And you guys do a lot for the community, so I think you can throw that priority in there as well.
Yeah. I mean, we love the community we live in. We were lucky to raise our kids here and help our kids find success and find some success ourselves, and so yeah.
Great. I want to pivot for a little bit and go to Jed. So Jed, when you were going through school down in Ashland, Ohio, you meet Jenny and you say, I'm going to come back and run the family business.
So I was going to be a teacher.
Okay. What were you going to teach?
I was going to teach business.
Okay.
So back then, of course, that would have been typing, accounting, maybe some economics.
If you have a debit, you got to have a credit.
That's right.
He's a little critical of my typing skills.
So I'm a master keyboarder.
Gotcha.
Yes. No, so that was actually my goal, and we jumped into after I met Jenny. We had some things we were kind of hashing out where we wanted to go and what we wanted to do, and we jumped into the family and we getting married and all the rest of that pretty young, pretty early, and so as we were kind of rolling around and figuring out what we wanted to be and where we wanted to go, it didn't take long, and the family business was calling, and I actually jumped into sales and kind of went that route. I mean, I knew the back end because I'd worked there in the summer times, wrenching on the machines and stuff like that. But no, it was really an evolution. But it was funny because growing up in Adrian in Lenawee County, all through high school the goal is to get out,
Right.
leave, and what I learned quickly coming back and having a family is it was the perfect place to come back to. It really was. It's a great place to raise a family because, it's big enough. You can kind of find trouble, but it's also small enough you can get out of that trouble. It was, I don't know, it's comfortable.
That's great.
It's very comfortable.
So was there any concern about going, and I'm assuming that when you were in the sales side of the business, you were working for your dad?
Mm-hmm.
And was there any concern about that?
It does. It's very difficult in a family business to leave work at work,
Sure.
and home at home. So Thanksgivings and Christmases and stuff like that.
We had rules.
And so you really have to make rules, and you got to kind of hold to them.
I want to know who established the rules. Was it something you set forth, or did?
We are not going to talk about that at a birthday party.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was.
And did you have to have that conversation with Jed's dad, or did you say?
Time or two.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, you have to reestablish the lines every once in a while.
That's good.
Because sometimes it just naturally
Boundaries.
happens, right?
Yeah.
It just naturally, it's what you know and what you talk about,
Yes.
and it's what's hot in the moment. And
Right.
So, yeah. But no, it was something that usually it came easy, but there were times where we had to be reminded quickly.
Sure. Sure.
Let's revert.
Yeah. So when you're going through the sales process and you were working that, did you know the goal would be for you to take over the leadership position, or was it just like, I'm going to do this and see what happens?
Yeah, I would say probably about 5 to 7 years into it, and it started getting a little more serious with less about doing my job and more about preparing to do more, to learn more. And I had moved around in a couple of other positions that allowed me to see different parts of the company. I mean, sales is pretty kind of on the outside, right?
Right.
So I got into some estimating, got into some other jobs in REMA that really brought around the financing piece of it, the operations piece of it, quality element, things like that. But yeah, no, that was about 5 to 7 years in, and next thing you know, we're going down to Toledo to listen to Leon Danko speak. He was a big family business guru.
Gotcha.
At the time, and just things like that.
Yeah. So when did you take over the president's office?
It really wasn't until, that was a blessing. Like 08.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that.
It was just a smell.
Yeah. Hey, Jed, there you go.
job.
I'm going to step away. You're in charge.
Yeah.
By the way, here's this gut-wrenching work you got to do to keep everything going.
Right.
Yeah. No, that was pretty much when I took over.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. So the greatest financial crisis since the Great Depression.
Oh yeah.
You're running a manufacturing.
Excuse me.
Just remind our listeners, which we all know, REMA's in Michigan. So Michigan was sort of at the epicenter
Absolutely.
of the financial crisis. Just so you know, I moved my family here in 07.
Oh, there
You're
you
gonna
go.
love it. There's all kinds of stuff going on.
I think I did some great convincing.
Yeah. So we moved here in 07. So I don't have the same experience as you, but this newness, right, was difficult. So your 08 happens. You're the president.
Yep.
Were you able to lean on your dad? Was he available to consult?
He absolutely was.
Yeah.
Absolutely was.
Yeah.
He still was around. He didn't just kind of duck and run.
Yeah.
Like, there you go.
Right.
I'm out. But no, he definitely stayed involved, especially through those times.
Yeah.
And the conversations that we would have. We dropped to a third of what we were.
Okay.
I mean, the landing gear was real close to the trees. But we dropped to a third of what we were in sales and size. We went from 3 shifts to 1. I mean, people were wearing many hats. I will tell you probably the hardest part of that, though. I mean, that's gut wrenching, telling people who stays, who goes, and things like that. The hardest part is actually climbing back up and recovering from that. It was probably 3 or 4 years before I really felt like we were out of it, even though it was probably not that long. That's what I felt.
Right.
Because then you're picking, okay, you've got 3 hats and you've got 3 hats, but you get to take 1 hat off and want to hire somebody. You keep doing, you keep those 3 hats. Like you had to pick and choose and figure out, like it was still real tender and real slow.
Sure.
But yeah, no, we had, not just my father, we had a really good board of directors that was helping us through a lot of that as well. I had a couple of other outside people I could talk to, lean on.
So there's a balance, though. You want your dad there because he has the experience, the knowledge, the history, but also you're trying to create that. You're the leader now.
Correct.
And so, was there any difficulty during that process to sort of establish yourself as, I'm Jed, and my dad he's simply a board director now, or maybe chairman of the board or something?
It was, so around that same time, and I really fuzzy on the chronology, anything pre-pandemic, don't ask me for a specific date, because I don't know.
Yeah.
I did have a sister that was also in the business with me as well, too.
Okay.
So there were a couple of us still involved. To your question, trying to be the leader with a father that was still very present, it had some difficult moments, definitely.
Yeah.
There were definitely boundaries, much like in our personal life we were trying to keep. There was also boundaries within work that we constantly had to keep on top of. We had to work it over and over.
It takes, and both parties probably messed up from time to time.
Oh, absolutely.
And acknowledge it and move forward.
Yep, absolutely.
So let's jump. So you Rima survives that. You and your dad survived that. Everyone's good now. And then, things are trucking along. And then pandemic happens. Right. Which is, your dad hadn't just, in your presidency at Rima, you've had the greatest financial crisis and now the greatest health crisis. And your dad didn't have those experiences. And your grandfather didn't have those experiences either. So you're creating new paths here.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I remember a story that you told. I don't know when. This was sometime after the pandemic. I learned this, but Rima was helpful in delivering some parts to ventilators. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
So tell us about that and how you got involved with that.
Yeah.
And how you kind of switched.
So we were involved with General Motors, and they're the ones that converted their Kokomo plant to make, I think, from transmissions, I think is what they were making, but they converted it to make ventilators because that was obviously a huge need for us during the pandemic. It was we were probably a month or 2 into it. We were shut down. We were able to stay open for a couple of weeks, being a critical supplier. As long as they were ordering parts. But then it got to a point where everybody was just shut down, right? There was about 6 weeks where nothing was happening. And I remember getting a phone call, and it was my sales guy saying, hey, I just got a call from our GM buyer and his boss, and, they're doing all this, they're putting this stuff together, and, we think we can help. And I was like, okay. So they sent us, 35 prints, and we ended up calling, I'd say probably about 8 or 9 people just to meet up at Rima, sit in the boardroom around a big table, look at all the blueprints, and just go through. We can make it, we can't. We can make it, we can't. And it was really cool because we actually had somebody from CSI, the local school, come down. Dan Rogers just showed up. We had one of our tooling salesmen that happened to be in the area popping in. For pandemic, we probably shouldn't have been this close together in this kind of a group, but it was everybody wanted to be a part of the solution. Right, is really what it was. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I think there was probably about 10 parts we ended up quoting, and GM ended up giving us one, and we were able to get it set up on the machine. We brought back enough operators to run it, and it was a real skeleton crew just making those parts. And, I remember thinking at one point, like, crap, what if somebody gets COVID, right? And suddenly we can't keep making parts for these ventilators. We're the one piece they can't put in that they need to. And I remember the first box went over to the mezzanine at CSI, and we just had it there. And Danny knew if he got a phone call, that's our last. That's the one, right, that keeps it all going. But I mean, it was just things like that you were just thinking of. It was everything was critical. Everything was an emergency. Everything was. I mean, as I think back now, was it? Wasn't it? I couldn't even tell you.
Right.
But it was that crazy
I
of
mean,
a time.
people are so thankful for that part, and I don't understand the part. I'm
The teeny tiny little part.
Yeah.
It's a little.
I used to carry one around so people could see it.
But it's just amazing to me that, in Hudson, Michigan, you get a call, you're making a part that is like saving lives.
Yeah.
And we all want to feel valued and purposeful in our lives. And this was your moment.
It was. I tell you, everybody that was involved in it felt that same way.
Yeah.
You could just tell. The guys would go back and kind of check on the machines, and they were, they were proud to be there.
Yeah.
It was.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Well, we're going to take our final break, and then we'll get to our big question.
We can all think of a successful business, and we know that those businesses have a comprehensive plan. Let County National Bank Wealth Management help you put together a comprehensive plan for your life. Whether that's leaving money to children or to a charity or traveling wherever you want, come meet with us and we can help you plan, prepare, and prosper throughout your life.
I guess what I want to know and what Holly and I love to ask is, what does wealth mean to the Engel family?
Who wants to go first? Can I go first?
Go first.
We sort of deliberately didn't talk about that question just because. So I think the obvious question or the obvious answer when you hear that question, what is wealth? It kind of comes around, like a monetary thing. For me, it starts out with just being comfortable and being able to live a comfortable life. But then I move on to health is part of wealth for me. Happiness is part of wealth to me. And attitude and having a positive attitude. And that's a lesson I learned from Dr. Arshad, who was my very first surgeon. And he knew what we were facing. And he said to me, "You're not going to find this in a medical book." And he said that because I was always like, "Show me that in the books, other things, other health information." I'm like, "Show me that in a book, show me that written down." But we got to a point where he said, "You're not going to find this in a book." But I've observed it while I've taken care of patients for a very long time. And those who have a positive attitude do a whole lot better. And I think of that in a health setting, which is very true, but I think also in life it's true. Like you've got to look for the positive, and I'm not gonna lie and say, oh, everything's all rosy and positive. There's things that are difficult, but if you can always put a positive spin on it or find a silver lining, you're just going to be better off. Yeah. I try to approach every day like that, and that's another thing. Every day is a gift. Like every morning, every sunrise, every sunset.
Even when I wake you up in the morning?
I always look for the positive. I always look for the silver lining. He does wake me up quite early to go exercise in the morning.
Just saying.
Yeah. But no, every day is a gift, and a positive attitude makes a huge difference. So I try to do that every day. I'm not completely successful, but something to strive for.
Yeah.
So Jed.
Absolutely. I got to tell you, I heard the word comfortable. I love that, because to me that really is wealth, is being comfortable. Comfortable. We laugh about winning the lottery, right? What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? How are you going to spend it? And you hear so many stories about people that aren't used to that, and it almost throws them into a discomfort.
Yeah.
It's like too much.
Yeah.
And so, for me, I like to do things. I like to try different things. I'm into scuba diving all of a sudden, right? And so the ability just to be able to do that,
right.
to take the classes, take some trips, things of that nature. not magnanimous, but just something kind of fun and on the side. The ability to be able to just pick up and go visit the new grandson, which somebody's been able to do
I've done a
just
lot.
recently. But the ability to be able to do that, you know,
Yeah.
that's the comfort that to me, the more I can get there to have that ability. It's not a new shiny car. It's not the biggest house in the neighborhood for me. But it's that comfort.
Flexibility to do the things that you want to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I've been trying to add this into the podcast because I think I texted Jenny one time and I said that you guys were the go-iest family that I've ever met. And you can look on Facebook and they're in Detroit at a Lions game. The next day they're like supporting Siena Heights. Or maybe opposite days, actually. First day is at Siena, then you're at,
Right.
Lions.
A little here, a little there, yeah.
And I love it. I think it's terrific, and it's just fantastic. So I'm glad that you guys are able to do those things.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I love to see when we see you guys out. It's always so warm.
And I love that it's not things. When the two of you talk about what is wealth to you, it's not things.
Yeah.
It's either the experiences or the family or the togetherness,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Which obviously speaks to the length of your marriage as well.
Yep.
So just in closing, CMB Wealth Management wants to help people plan, prepare, and prosper. And I think what I heard in that definition is the prosper part for you, the flexibility to do the things that you want to do and enjoy them. You, the flexibility to live your life in this great health that you have currently.
Right.
And so I think it's fantastic. So I appreciate your time. Thanks for
Absolutely.
being on our podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting us.
This was fun.
All right.
Yep.